Hello, George. Hello. Oh, yeah. On the laptop, it is a little bit different. Hmm, A little music too, no matter. Why not? All right. So for me, I'm talking a little about basically blackfishing. Um, I feel like often people get stuck on the idea that the black identity has a lot to do with a lot of stereotypes to some people, and it gets annoying why people like associate so many things that have nothing to do with black being a black feature. And I'm using quotes. But first off, I wanted to talk about the fact that people have, like, every time I watch a video pertaining to like black fishing, I always find that people always point out the women that look a certain way when they're darker. Often, like with the whole situation with Dannileigh, you find that they tend to act like she must be doing something wrong or she must be like blackfishing because she got a tan. When, if you look at her complexion is pretty typically like a butterscotch complexion, something like that. They expect people to not like have a change in skin tone. I understand, like personally, I find it very uncomfortable when people criticize people for tanning because it's like people have different types of skin types, and you have to understand people's skin tone is very different depending on their skin type. So, for example, darker skinned black people are dark skinned. They're naturally dark skinned. They stay dark skinned, you know? But, like, with the whole thing of blackfishing, it's not really different from the accusations of bleaching. They're basically one and the same. Many of the time, people will accuse people who are, anywhere from like a lighter skin complexion, light brown, to like brown skin, of either bleaching or blackfishing, one or the other. It depends on basically their phenotype. And I find it weird that people do this because it's like, dog. Anyway, um, because it's like, people are so not used to, the fact that people have different skin tones. But at the same time, it's like a lot of dark skinned people expect everyone to accept their skin tone for how it is, but you can't even accept that some people are naturally able to tan and able to get lighter. It's like that concept. For some people, it's just hard for them to accept or understand. That's why with black fishing, I always am like, it really doesn't exist, in my opinion, in the sense that people talk about it. I mean, like, yes, someone could paint blackface on their face, and yes, obviously that would be not black fishing, it would just be racist, you're wearing blackface. But having a tan is not blackface. It is not. It's just basically a natural reaction to the sun. People who are skin type 3 or 4 are very likely to tan heavily. But A main factor of being a skin type 3 or 4, you have to have a skin tone that is naturally lighter. So that's why I don't understand. People always pick on people who are like Mediterranean descent, Middle Eastern descent, and say they're blackfishing when they tan. And it's like, do you understand what type of skin tone they have and how they basically are responding to the sun because of where their people are native to? That's how their skin had to react to the sun. So it's like, I just don't appreciate when people think of it like, oh, this person's tanning, so they must be blackfishing or trying to look like them. I really think the only reason people are offended by blackfishing is because, you see, the people bother about blackfishing always look a certain way. It's that you won't have any ugly person being attacked for blackfishing. And the reason why is because no one really cares. But if they're attractive, they bother them because now that they have a skin tone similar to them, they can see how they would look if they were them. And that bothers them. And that's not right that you have such insecurity by seeing such beauty from someone else. You should just embrace it from someone else. It shouldn't be something where you're just like upset that someone else has a skin tone now similar to yours. And if that's all you feel like that makes you special is your skin tone, and maybe that's why you feel insecure about it, well, then you obviously don't think you have much to offer. And that's not good either. So, I mean, to me, it's not really about the people who get tanned or the people who look darker one time and lighter another time. It's about the people criticizing them, honestly. Because, like I said, how can you be upset at someone for tanning naturally? I I think it's really weird because dark skinned people always say we should criticize them for when they tan. And I don't think we should. But I don't think we should criticize anyone for tanning of any complexion. And I just think, like, a lot of the time, people don't think of how it would be if somebody treated them the same way that they treat others. Like, if you're for all shades mattering and all shades being beautiful and ideal for themselves, then you will realize that you're not going to be insecure or uncomfortable with another person's skin tone or their differentiation between their skin tones. You won't be offended by the fact that their skin responds differently than your skin to the sun. And also, this goes into another part of what I wanted to say that I never really had any time to comment on. Pertaining to that whole situation. I talked a little bit about it over a month ago, but someone was talking about like how they don't compliment people of races, basically, and pertaining to the whole and that to me ties into what I was saying previous. Race. What does that really say about you? That you don't want to acknowledge someone else's beauty, you know? Like, for me personally, I embrace everyone's beauty. Of course, I think that dark skinned black women are very, very beautiful and most ideal. But, I'm not going to be insecure about it and act like, I can't admit it. What kind of jealous individual does something like that? I mean, like, I'm just honest, honestly. Like, I'm not gonna lie and act like someone's not attractive just because I don't like the skin tone they're on. That's like really deep issues there, in my opinion. Oh, Bella, stop. So, also, that's another part of what I wanted to address with blackfishing. I find it seems like it always ends up where someone starts talking about black men again. Which, I mean, like, how does that have to do with black men? I don't know. But people always talk about black men and the attention of black men for a black fishing and things of that nature. Like saying that they want to look more similar to black women or mixed women or wanting to look more like black women and things of that nature. But it's kind of like, to me, weird that people think that, considering all the other claims people make. But yeah, like I've seen several times where people will talk about black men, and like I said, it goes back to, in my opinion, how people kind of like associate, you know, it with attractiveness. So it's not really about, black fishing in itself or the identity of being black. If it was really about the identity of being black, how come it's only about, the skin tone of women who are, more attractive? And why is it more about black men? Why do I hear people mention the preference of black men when we talk about black fishing? And I feel like the reason that is, like I said, the only motive is attractive women. And then I wanted to get into this other part with, uh, you know, I have seen parts where people will say, like I said, mixed race people are accused of black fishing, which is just so weird to me because mixed race people are black, and people will try and say like, oh, well, with like society, they are only included as black because of black men. And it's like, if that was really the case, then I don't see why for all these years before, during slavery and during our history, they were included as black people. And then you have to get to the point where actually black Americans were seen as black people because of the same reason mixed people were seen as black people. Before, when we actually did make a designation between mixed and black, mixed race people were seen as mixed, and that included Black American people. The average Black American, is mixed, about 75% Black, sometimes closer to 90% Black. But if you look at the mixed race categories of long ago, they included everyone with a great grandparent that was white. So that's why I don't understand why people always act like mixed race people can blackfish any more than black people can blackfish. Because black Americans aren't, they are mixed just as much as mixed race people. And they're not fully black. So that's what I mean. Like, you saying that someone can blackfish, I guess everybody blackfishes when they tan, including dark-skinned black people, because you guys get darker too. Often I find that, and I hate to say it, honestly, but the problem is irrational because it's anger over a person naturally tanning is because these women are usually unhappy with themselves and feel like these light-skinned women and other races of women, when they tan, their complexion look better than them, especially light-skinned women. I think a lot of them notice that when they tan, they look like dark-skinned women. But then they realize they are pretty dark-skinned women. This is why pretty dark-skinned women don't really have an issue with it, I don't think. But less attractive dark-skinned women, I think, do have a problem with it. Because they realize they can't claim colorism when it comes to blackfishing because, or tanning, really, it's not really blackfishing, because they see how they look when they're dark-skinned and they see what they look like when they tan. So then they kind of realize that it's not a preference because of light skin, but actually because of how they look. Also, I mean, like, I think dark skinned people who are into this whole blackfishing idea expect others to basically not hold them accountable, basically, and not expect them to even practice what they preach and saying respect their complexion, but not respect anyone else's complexion. Also, I wanted to talk a lot about this other issue. This is blackfishing in regard to body type. People keep saying this stuff that people of all different ethnicities, they say about white women, Asian women, Hispanic women, mixed race women, even sometimes. Um, Not really mixed race women all that often, honestly, but they do say it about the other women. And they act like basically this is very offensive because as a black woman, I do not have this, I don't have this stereotype of being a black woman. Black women aren't built a certain way. It's so weird when people act like we all have big butts. That feeds into the fetishization of black women. You want to keep that up. Why do you want to keep up a bad image of us? I don't understand that. I mean, as a woman who's very thin, 100 pounds, and I'm more top heavy than anything. I don't have a big butt at all. And I know plenty of black people in my family, my mother, her mother, and so forth, dark-skinned black women who had very small bottoms and were very thin and very skinny. And you mean to tell me to say that they don't have black women bodies? Like, how inconsiderate and ignorant are you? I don't understand. They always act like that, and they totally ignore women who have smaller bodies, smaller butts, and they totally act like we don't exist just to create a narrative to make them feel good about being bigger. I mean, can't you be happy about being a woman and being curvy and things of that nature without trying to drag everyone else down? Seriously, trying to make an assumption that we all have a certain body type when we don't is very offensive. It's like trying to say we all eat fried chicken or something. It's like, stereotypes that are so not true and so ignorant to like assume racist people would say these kinds of things. But you as a black person say them and you think it's okay just because you're black. No, it's not. And it's so irrational to be offended that another woman has a womanly body just because she's another race. Like, people will try and show white women and Hispanic women and Asian women when they are thinner and when they are fatter to try and prove that there's some kind of plastic surgery. The way that you guys go about this so desperately in hopes to try and claim that you're the only one who can have a big butt is insane. Don't you go outside? You think everybody has plastic surgery? Really? Just everyday women have plastic surgery and you know, from having bigger butts. Really? Seriously? I see plenty of white women with huge butts. And I see plenty of Hispanic women with huge butts. Asian women. Some Asian women are very curvy, by the way. And I mean, you can honestly see in thinner women, sometimes you can see that they would be very curvy if they gained weight. You can just see it, you know? And it's shaped like a woman. Because someone is womanly shaped and she's a woman. Don't you think something's wrong with it? You should be able to accept other people's womanhood without having to try and discount it and be angry about it because you feel like that's the only thing you can claim. There's way much more value to black womanhood a big butt. Really is. I just think that a lot of people need to, not focus on other race women and actually, embrace themselves. And honestly, to think about it, from what I have seen, and I've seen studies on this, maybe I should actually, well, I don't know where I could find it, but I remember hearing that actually between black women and white women, on average, our tend to be less wide, which makes sense because a little bit smaller, period. We tend to be shorter and things of that nature. Bone structure, I'm saying, not in weight. Because people always get confused with black people, black women, and think just because a majority of us are overweight that we must be bigger. But that's just a matter of behavior. See, among black people, we are encouraged to look heavier than other people. And that goes back down to our culture and like dating back to West Africa. There are plenty of West African cultures that actually do embrace much curvier women and heavier women. So, I mean, the outlook for us when we're thinner is to actually look bigger. I've seen women who I worked with who weren't skinny, but they were just not overweight. And they basically thought that they should get bigger to be thick, basically. So, like in our community, many of the time, being curvy is seen as an ideal thing. My mother was like this, honestly. I don't know about her mother, but I know she was like that, where she too wanted to be bigger. But, some people are just naturally thin, and no matter what they do, they're going to just be thin. But I just think that, people assume just because we tend to be heavier doesn't mean that we are just bigger people, overall. one-on-one when it comes to comparative size. I just think people need to embrace the fact also that they need to lay off of, honestly, body shaming for women who are smaller and black and not act like our bodies aren't black women's bodies because they are black women's bodies too. Black women in all shapes and sizes. It's not one specific size we come in. And, we're not all just, pear shaped. We don't all come in that shape. That's just how it is. And I mean, like, this idea kind of comes with the whole idea that, you know, black women are masculinized often. And associating us with being big associates us with being masculine. Yes, I know you're associating us with being curvy, but you're also associating us with being big, which is just not right because we constantly have this problem in our society where black women are constantly masculinized and constantly seen as bigger, as seen as, more, you know, more, people like to create the intimidating view of black people and black women, especially, and black men, especially, both basically. But they like to perpetuate that view of us. And having this view that we're big, we're fat, and we're masculine does not help. It really doesn't help, the stereotype. It just adds to the fuel. So I just don't appreciate that about, blackfishing. To me, blackfishing many of the time comes with a lot of stereotypes, like many different clothing and hairstyles. I don't appreciate that either because it boxes us in. Really? You're saying that we have to wear only certain types of clothing? I don't even know what kind of clothing those are. But people will say like certain outfits, certain jewelry, certain hairstyles. And it's like certain hairstyles never made sense, especially like when they associate braids. Because as far as I remember, I mean, you see all sorts of cultures with braids. I find it weird that people associate that with, blackfishing. Like if you wear French braids, for example, people will associate that with blackfishing. It's just odd to me. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to say on blackfishing. I don't feel it exists. I feel like blackfishing is made up to kind of cut people down who you think might have a phenotype or skin tone that's similar to yours, but basically have that phenotype and that skin tone on a better level, basically, than you do, you know. And I think it's just another form of jealousy. And I don't appreciate it. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say. So thanks for watching and bye.